Preemies need intensive medical care, monitoring, and all those cables and tubes keeping them stable. But they're also babies, and babies need to be clothed and to have something to hold on to. Hi, this is Never Too Early. Today, I want to talk about the more human, everyday side of life in the incubator, what preemies wear, and what they play with. We can finally look at normal baby stuff for preemies. In the very beginning, extreme preemies don't wear clothes at all. They lie in the incubator in just a tiny micro diaper, sometimes a hat, and nothing else. There are a few reasons for this. The skin of an extreme preemie is still extremely sensitive and fragile. In the earliest weeks, even the gentlest fabric can be too much. The medical team also needs constant access to the chest and abdomen for monitor release, the feeding tube, IV lines, and so on. And clothing just gets in the way. If your baby needs phototherapy, the blue billy light needs direct access to as much skin as possible so they stay as uncovered as they can be. As the baby grows and stabilizes, clothing becomes possible, and it's a milestone of its own kind. But preemie clothes are not simply the small version of normal baby clothes. They are designed differently. Because a preemie in the NICU has cables and tubes attached at almost all times, clothing has to work around all of that without disturbing any connections. So the clothes have to go on and come off with minimal disruption. This is why anything that pulls over the head is a difficult choice. Instead, preemie tops open fully at the front. It opens like a wrap top. You lay the top flat, place a baby on it, and fold it around them. It's a bit like wrapping a little gift. It's a completely different way of getting a baby dressed, and it ends up being a little easier than wrestling a normal top over a baby's head. In the early clothing stage, it's usually just a top or a full wrap suit. This is the first outfit that my baby wore around week 7. Trousers come later once the baby has moved to an open, warmer bed. Preemie trousers have a stretchy waistband for easy on and off, and you quickly learn to manage the SPO2 cable attached to the foot with the trousers. Most NICUs keep a good supply of preemie clothes from donations and hand-me-downs. They have their own laundry system, so every change in the incubator means a fresh, clean set. But parents also can bring their own as long as clothes are NICU appropriate. At the hospital we stayed, one of the nurses was a part of a hobby sewing club that made preemie clothes in their spare time. Let that land for a moment. She spent her working hours keeping premature babies alive, and her hobby was making sure that those little babies have something to wear. Angels do exist in this world. She would bring her handmade pieces into the hospital, and our son's very first outfit was one she had sewn herself. My mother in law, a former nurse at a children's hospital, knew of a nonprofit organization in Germany that makes and sends preemie clothes through donations. She requested a box of clothes for us. They sent various sizes to cover all stages of the NICU stay, and my baby wore some of those pieces even well into his second and third month at home. If you can find an organization like this in your country, it's worth reaching out, both to receive what you need and to support them with a donation later if you can. These groups exist in many countries, often run entirely by volunteers. Preemies spend most of their time in the incubator, but as they develop, their waking windows grow longer and they start to need something to look at or to hold. At our NICU, they had a collection of donated plush toys made by a local knitting club. They knit toys for preemies and donated them to the hospital. One of the members of the group had a grandchild who was a preemie, and that became the spark for the whole group. Our son received a couple of them from the knitting club. When I first heard about this in the early days of our NICU stay, I was so moved. It felt like love was coming from every direction, from people we had never met who were sitting at home with their needles making something soft for our baby. The toy they made was an octopus, and there's actually a beautiful reason for this. The octopus trend in the NICUs started in Denmark around 2013 and has since spread around the world. The idea is rooted in something preemies do instinctively. In the womb, babies spend a lot of time grabbing and holding their umbilical cord. Once they're born prematurely and placed in the incubator, that instinct doesn't just disappear. And without the umbilical cord, they start reaching for whatever is nearby, which is in a NICU tends to be their feeding tube, their IV line, or their monitor leads. My child definitely did it too a lot. The curly tentacles of a knitted octopus mimic the texture and feel of the umbilical cord closely enough to satisfy that instinct. Babies in the NICU who have an octopus to hold have been observed to leave their tubes and wires alone. And some studies have found improvements in heart rate regularity and oxygen levels in babies given octopus companions. It's not just a toy, it has a genuine clinical purpose. There was a cleaning routine to follow. We washed them once a week, brought them back to the hospital. The nurses would spray them with disinfection spray, and then they go back into the incubator. And we had to bring them home with us at discharge. They were really the 24/7 companion for my baby for the entire 4-month NICU stay. Leaving my baby in the incubator every evening was always hard. Knowing he has something to hold made it a little easier. I'm so glad that I get to share the more human, everyday parts of NICU life, the parts that do not show up in medical charts. The grandmother's knitting club, the tiny wrap style top, the octopus with curly arms sitting in the incubator next to preemies. Most NICUs have thought carefully not just about keeping babies alive, but about giving them and their families moments of warmth and normalcy inside a very clinical environment. I am very grateful for every single one of those moments. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next one. This is Never Too Early.